Hello and welcome, everybody. This is the Tell Us About Yourself podcast, where we spotlight the incredible people and projects who are shaping the future of crypto. I'm your host, Anna from Tangem, and today I'm super excited. We're going to be discussing a key player in the field of leading decentralized exchanges, aggregators, and which is a valued part of the Tangem ecosystem. So you may have used the product already without even realizing it. This is the wonderful 1inch co-founder Anton Bukov. We will be discussing all of the interesting things that makes them great, which is, understanding the bigger ethos of what we're building in the crypto space. So it is great to have you here, Anton. How are you? Let's begin with some intros. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started with co-founding 1inch. Let's begin from there.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my journey into software engineering started around 25 years ago, and I came to crypto like 8 years ago and was amazed by its potential. Started writing protocols, creating different protocols for blockchain, and in 2019, with the co-founder, participated in a lot of blockchain hackathons around the globe. Mostly it's global hackathons, but yeah, it was like 1 or 2 times per month. And on each of the hackathons, we invented something from scratch, like small little projects which made some sense in terms of you using for something. And one of these projects was actually Winch. We built it during ETH New York hackathon. We didn't sleep for 48 hours or more and built it from scratch. And it was working originally with 3 DEXs. It was the Uniswap, Kyber, and Banker. Right on hackathon, we had like a very first working version with 3 DEXs. And that's how it all started.
I love how everything tends to start with a couple of sleepless nights and then everything just starts going from there. I mean, hackathons do create the best environment for a fast-paced environment to create something new. So 2019 is a long time. Let's dive in a little bit more into the details. So what kind of problems was 1inch trying to solve? I mean, yes, everything starts with a hackathon, but when it came to life, when you knew that it clicked for you, how did that come to life and what problems were you trying to fix?
Yeah, originally we tried to fix own problems. I saw that there were like 3 different decentralized exchanges. And when you were aiming to swap like few $100, like you're like selling some token or buying some token for like really small amount, like $100 or $200, you could end up to different exchange rates on 3 different websites. And I started like computing this in my mind. So should I use this site or this site? It was always different. So in the morning, you could see prices are better on one DEX, or in the evening, prices are better on other DEX. But then I realized that I should also take into account gas costs, because on one DEX it's like $1, on another DEX swap could cost you like $5. It's different, and you should take this into account. We came up to idea that all those 3 DEXs are actually smart contracts with WebD apps. Those smart contracts have those who build those projects, they have access to these smart contracts, but we can have the same access to these smart contracts. They don't have any exclusivity here. So we built own service which can access liquidity from all those 3 DEXs, and can originally it was helping you to just split your volume. So the more you swap on every DEX, the worse is exchange rate. This is like pretty natural, because you get the best rates first and then your rates getting worse and worse. And we realized if we would just split user volume among 2 or 3 DEXs, price would be better. So you swap less on each of them. That's how you get a better rate. So the very first version of 1inch was about distributing 100% of your volume among different exchanges to improve exchange rate. And later, we also came up to much more complex algorithm. Now it's called Pathfinder, and it's actually looking for like multi-path, how your funds can go from source asset to destination asset through different other assets.
So it sounds like the core ethos in a way was creating something that was fixing the issues of multiple distribution of different channels, finding something that works specifically for you and is better for users in turn. But let's hear it from you. What is the core ethos behind the 1inch product?
We recently came up to vision that we're only building products which are self-custody. So we don't want to have any access to user funds That's for user safety and for our own safety. I'm like really glad these technologies nowadays can help with that. We only want to have services which help users to achieve something. If they want to swap something, or if they want to do anything else, if they want to use wallet or whatever, they can do everything self-custody. And we are like focused on delivering self-custody products to users because all this industry started from Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is about self-custody ownership and payments. So you can own Bitcoin, you can transfer Bitcoin. That's probably the only things which you can actually do with Bitcoin. And then Ethereum and smart contracts also brought much more possibilities to self-custody assets. Now you can borrow assets. Now you can swap assets. Now you can do unimaginably complex things with your assets, and all this can happen self-custody. So we're like expanding self-custody possibilities for users for their funds.
Completely agree. When we as Tangem became as a company, we also completely stand by the principles of self-custody. The product started with the idea that you have like the biggest issue, which is you have like this problem of onboarding new users. So we've created a product around that. And I agree with the whole Bitcoin thing where yes, it was the first of the kind of its assets. And then with programmability now being possible with Ethos and so on, what's the next step? And that is definitely making sure that we still stand on that ethos of protecting user funds by not knowing anything, so zero knowledge kind of space. But I completely agree in terms of it's the company's in a way policy to protect that users from themselves in a way and having that completely decentralized. But I assume this is what mostly affects you in a way about DeFi, that you're really excited about the space just for the decentralization aspect, correct?
Yeah, sure. But I think I see this as something like a freedom, financial freedom for users, because we see that 1.4 billions of users worldwide are unbanked. That's because banking system is not very efficient. Cost of user acquisition is pretty high because you have to check documents, you probably have to check them in person. This costs a lot. And yeah, if traditional banking system was not able to onboard this like huge share of population, world population, till this year, like 2025, I'm not sure that they will be able to make it in next 5-10 years. I think a decentralized finance is probably the brighter future for all these people because the only thing you need to have to get access to this new system is actually internet. You just need to have internet access and yeah, some device to access those services. And yeah, you can start using it. You can have different assets, you can swap them, you can have borrowing, lending, whatever you want. I think decentralized finance is way more efficient. Onboarding costs like almost zero.
Yeah, definitely leveling the playing field. You just need internet connection, some sort of device, and that's it. You're ready to go into DeFi. Great. I mean, that's what we stand for here at Tangem as well. Just making sure that the level field is as easy and simple as possible for people to come in and have a play with crypto. But let's dive back into the specifics of 1inch. What sets you apart from traditional DEXs or AMMs?
Yeah, we were actually the first project who came up to idea of aggregation. And yeah, now it's not only aggregating different decentralized exchanges, which we can call on-chain liquidity. We also aggregate among off-chain liquidity providers like private market makers. And the thing is that what they actually do, they actually bridge liquidity from other chains and other centralized exchanges. Anywhere where they can get liquidity, they bring it and they like bridge the gaps among all those different platforms, different blockchains, different layer one blockchains, different layer two blockchains. And the thing is, when you make like a big swap on Ethereum, those professional market makers, they can participate in this by bridging liquidity from outer space. And that's how they make this aggregation not like a single chain. It's already cross-chain and cross-sources aggregation among different blockchains and centralized exchanges. Yeah, now it's like when you swap on 1inch or like on like Tangem, for example, you're using 1inch under the hood, you are getting access to all the liquidity.
So all of that, all in one single space. But just being first to market with an idea is great, but you continue to innovate on and on throughout the space. So you recently introduced Fusion Plus. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that really changed user experience behind the scenes?
Yeah, the stack of our technologies nowadays look like a limit order protocol on the bottom. It's kinda intense layer where user can express their intent to make some exchange via providing digital signature. Then we have layer of which we call 1-inch fusion. It's actually adding Dutch auction to prices of this intents. So Dutch auction is actually a great way to organize price discovery for your order. So you start with order with some price, and your price is getting slowly improved over time for resolvers. It's getting worse for you, but getting better for resolvers. And since resolvers compete with each other, whenever they see price is sweet for them, they take it. They can't wait more to make it sweeter because they have competition among them. And we have extra layer now called 1-inch Fusion Plus. It's also intense layer with Dutch auctions is Fusion, and Fusion Plus is thing which adds escrows. Escrows is when someone is filling your order, your funds are getting locked into escrow smart contract, and then resolver locks their funds in escrow contract on another chain. But these escrows, how they work, that users have a secret which they can reveal, which they should reveal when they're happy about escrow on destination chain. So user funds are being locked on source chain, resolver funds are being locked on destination chain, and when the user is happy about this escrow, they release secret, and this secret unlocks both of escrows simultaneously. And that's how users can get cross-chain swap, which is still can be considered self-custody, because holding this secret means that they are keeping their source funds. Whenever they release the secret, they get destination funds, and their source funds are being sent to resolver. So this scheme is actually called atomic swaps, and it was proposed back in 2013 when, only Bitcoin-like chains existed. So this approach is actually compatible with all the chains, not only smart contract chains or EVM chains. This would work for every chain, even Bitcoin chain or Doge chain or Litecoin, like Solana, Ethereum, whatever. We decided to go with it because it's completely self-custody way. There is no any point in time where 1-inch or resolver or anyone else have exclusive access to user funds and can trick on them.
So you have all that innovation under the hood. And does this all happen instantaneously? Like in the moment when somebody confirms a transaction, this happens instantaneously and is all available, this entire process to the end user, correct?
It's kind of atomic. It's not like instant, but it's atomic. This means that swap either should happen on both chains or it should be completely reverted. So you cannot end up with a situation where you do not have your source funds and destination funds, where you have no funds. It's not possible. If user would decide not to disclose the secret, so then destination escrow cancels first, and then source escrow cancels first. It's all about timing when those escrows can be locked and unlocked. So the main thing which we improved here, comparing to original scheme proposed like 12 years ago, we made it all spiced up with intents. So it's completely gasless for users, and resolvers have proper incentives to finalize all these things happening. Either it's a successful execution or it's canceling.
All right. Well, coming back to the end user in mind, creating products for them is the top priority, right? But for those who might not know, we actually do have an ongoing partnership between Tangem and 1-inch. Can you walk us through what it looks like behind the scenes? Maybe what does the integration enable for users? How do other platforms, how do our platforms complement each other?
Yeah, I think that's very beneficial for users because what aggregators do, they make resolvers, professional market makers, to compete with each other directly. And the main beneficiary of this competition is user because they're getting a better exchange rate. 1-inch is trying to hide all the complexity under the hood. So for the user, it's just they see some quote, they agree to it, and they don't care what exactly happens under the hood, how much different on-chain liquidity sources were involved, or how many professional market makers were involved in this competition. I'm glad that this is possible. This is possible mostly due atomicity of transactions on Ethereum. Originally, we were swapping on different on-chain sources. For example, when you perform like a swap, relatively high amount comparing to gas costs. I mean, on Ethereum, it's probably tens or hundreds of thousands because gas costs could be like few dollars, $5, $10, $15, depending on the transaction. But for example, on Polygon, BNB, or any other cheaper chains, you could swap like 1,000 and your transaction cost could be 1 cent. This means that this is a great room for aggregation. I mean, we would probably aggregate nothing if you would just swap $100 and pay $5 for transaction fees. We're like, it makes no sense to aggregate nothing here because you're like actually losing $5. You're like swapping 125, losing $5 on transaction fees. So we would just try to minimize your loss by using the cheapest possible protocol, like Uniswap version 2, for example. If your transaction volume is relatively high to gas costs, you could achieve like a really cool aggregation. You could touch 5, 10, 20 different pools, different protocols under the hood. Users will not notice that. So they will just get their cool experience that they are swapping, and they should not care what's happening under the hood.
They shouldn't care, but in many ways, like it's a fascinating process. I think this is why we do kind of these kind of one-on-one conversations, because people do not know the complexity of how much the company is building to create that seamless process for somebody. It might look like a simple click of the button, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And in the end, it just creates something that is simple, safe, and secure. But going into it, people are always concerned about safety and security, especially within the DeFi space. Yes, it's trustless, but it is still a primary concern for users. Something that is trustless also means that you kind of have to get used to the idea that there's nobody to fall back on or ask for some sort of help or advice. So how does one approach user protection from start to finish?
We dedicate a lot of resources to make our protocols safe. We found like a few code values which help us with that. For example, we decided to make our code base as much compact as possible, but at the same time, it should be as much efficient as possible in terms of high-level optimizations, like in terms of algorithm, like different data structures we use. And yeah, for sure, we also do low-level optimizations. But yeah, in general, what I already named is like the most important thing, because there's no like absolute safety, and there is no any way to get guarantee that your smart contract or protocol is safe. So what helps us to stay safe? We have a compact code base with pretty high number of security audits. If you have like 1,000 lines and 5 audits, it's good. But if you have 500 lines and 10 audits, it's 4 times more safe. And yeah, that's our approach. We write less code and we order a lot of audits. But also, users can see that there is also time proof and like a volume proof. So the more money are locked into protocol or more money went through the protocol and more time protocol is working safe, it's also adding like a reliability to the protocol because it's became more time proven or volume proven or TVL proven. Yeah.
All different kinds of ways to prove that, yes, nothing is guaranteed in this world. You cannot guarantee that something is 100% in the traditional sense of how you would count percentages, where it is a seamless completely. But keeping it in mind that you do understand the safety and security being the top pinnacle of the priority of the company, everything from there is just a reputation game, and you definitely have stood the test of time. And companies do need to keep that in mind, that it does take time to build a reputation. And, open conversation does help, but as they say, trust but verify. So I'm glad that you guys also have that in mind and in principle with the audits and open communication with your company, with the staff and the end users. But coming back to what is really, end users in mind, safety is great, but let's go back to the cross-chain swaps. So cross-chain swaps are evolving really fast. Things are changing all the time. And what challenges do you think will be in the near future to make them truly seamless?
Yeah, actually, we are working on non-chain or non-custody cross-chain protocol specification. I already told about 1-inch Fusion Plus, which is like atomic swaps for cross-chain, but that's actually implementation for EVM, which we already have. But yeah, we're trying to standardize this non-custody cross-chain protocol, which is like a broader version of this thing, which actually describes how any team in the world can build own implementation for any chain they want. Just imagine some team want to build it for Bitcoin, another team want to build it for Polkadot, for Cosmos, for Solana, or whatever. They can build their own implementation and they can make it work with any other implementation within the same standard, like 1-inch Fusion Plus. If someone would build Bitcoin implementation, they could have their D app with Ethereum Bitcoin swaps. Yeah, any team can do this without negotiating anything with 1-inch. They can run it on their own. And if their license of their protocol is open, like MIT or any other, we can also work with their implementation and can have it on our DApp. And that's how different projects can help each other to build like a really non-custody cross-chain protocol, which works among any chain. And the more chains join this movement, the more teams join, it makes much more sense for anyone else to join it. Because, yeah, imagine you have like a new chain called ABC, I don't know, and you want to have like a bridge, like non-custody cross-chain behavior. You should only build adapter for your chain, and this would all already work with all other chains implementations who were built with this protocol. It makes like a lot of sense to do this. We are trying to make this work like a crowd-funded, crowd-builded.
Crowd building something like this definitely requires people to come on board and have that ethos in mind. You know, that what is good of the space if it's not the very values that the things were founded on, that it's open and it's communicative. And I'm glad that there's a toolkit that can be available to users regardless of their status and their personal approaches. It has nothing to do with 1-inch. They can just build with each other, which is a great place to start with. But going back into, back to 1-inch and their core value proposition, gasless transactions have become more attention gaining. So what role do you think 1-inch will play in this trend?
Yeah, or Fusion, 1-inch Fusion is actually a gasless way to swap. It's actually helped users to avoid reversed transactions. So when you have a reversed transaction, you do not have any changes to your balance. The only change is that you only paid transaction fees and nothing else happened to your funds, tokens, or whatever. And going gasless helped this a lot. Users don't have this anymore. In the worst case, if something happened, like you placed your order and price changed immediately and your order is not sweet anymore. So yeah, in 2 minutes, no one will fill your order and you can recreate it. But yeah, you don't have to deal with the reversed transactions anymore. This is like removing one more risk from user. And yeah, moreover, this approach it's also have like this Dutch auctions. Originally, we allowed users, like our classic mode allows users to perform transaction on their own. And yeah, prices change fast. Also, like different arbitrage opportunities, they also change fast. And yeah, you have a lot of risk sending transactions on your own. And now we have this, what I called 1-inch limit order protocol, Fusion and Fusion Plus on top of it. We're working on Intense protocol, which will be more abstract and will replace our limit order protocol. It will be much more advanced, much more simple, agile, and cool. I think we definitely can deliver something cool to the industry.
Yeah, agile and cool. But do you think we're actually moving towards a future where people don't even know what kind of chain they're on?
That's interesting concept. I think we are approaching to it slightly. We're trying to keep our users still like informed about their chains and assets for them to like understand. I think we can try to hide some details, but anyway, set of users will require understanding of this. So yeah, I mean, it's possible to try to hide everything under the hood. Definitely, there are systems like that which already do this, like custody systems do this. I think it's like a diversity of users is that some of users will always wish to have like a professional features. They want to understand what exactly happening to their funds, what happened with their like transaction, what happens with other transactions involving their wallet or something like this. Yeah, I think that's really important for them.
Yeah, makes sense. Different kinds of products for different kinds of people, and it's up to the companies to kind of create products for both branches of people. But in terms of where are you guys building to in the future, what's next with the One Inch ecosystem? I mean, of course, like Fusion Plus is the next innovation, but anything else that's coming up that you're really excited about?
Yeah, we're going to expand Fusion Plus with more chains because it's a cross-chain solution, but currently it's only for EVMs. And yeah, we're gonna change that. We are gonna have more chains, non-EVM chains. And yeah, we don't want to build all these things alone. We are trying to make it possible for any team to build for any chain. And yeah, collaborating here is actually the key to have a like a really cool cross-chain standard cross-chain service product, which will be distributed actually among different teams. It will not be like a purely one-inch product.
It sounds like that's a big battle cry to start building something of the future in collaboration, of course, with One Inch, but not necessary in the future. It's great that we have these kind of conversations to bring people together and kind of go from there because, you know, you can't build something without a team. So thanks for having these kind of conversations. But we're getting to my favorite part of this section, which is some rapid fire questions. We're going to be trying to have maybe one sentence or one word answers to things. I think it's going to be relatively fun and easy. Let's start. What do you think is the most underrated trend in Web3 right now?
Probably self-custody.
Makes sense. If you could fix one thing in crypto today, what would it be?
Horizontal scaling of Ethereum.
One bold prediction for blockchain in the next 5 years.
I think that DeFi liquidity will grow dramatically, and countries, governments would recognize it as a separate liquidity hub. They will try to make it more accessible. Like you understand that different liquidity hubs in different countries is cool, but having global liquidity hub and building like a fast and cheap way from your like American market or European market or Chinese market to this global liquidity hub is the increasing efficiency of everyone who wants to join it.
All right. And how about the next question? How would you explain crypto to a 5-year-old?
I would say digital cash because it behaves as a cash actually. Actually, cash is the only self-custody service of traditional finance because you can actually have it in your hands, you can pay it to whoever you want, but yeah, you are very limited to moving cash among different countries.
Any new advice for newcomers to the Web3 space?
It should sounds like a caution, yeah, because it's a dangerous space. It's much more dangerous. I think they should start with understanding risks because this Web3 space adding few more risks which you should understand. Until you understand, you would you would probably lose some money. I usually call it that people pay for their experience. If you would start with the reading or listening for the risks, like analyzing those risks, it would be much cheaper for you to join. Else, why someone would make you pay for this? They will steal your money, they will scam you, or you will do something what would end up to some losses. Yeah.
All right. Just speaking of that, one last question. So, your personal approach to crypto security, why do you think hardware wallets matter?
I think the most important point for using hardware wallets is that our computers and even mobile phones are not really protected from viruses. I see 0 days hacks. They're happening every few weeks, every few months. Even for the top-notch operating systems, even for MacBooks and for iPhones. And it's definitely not safe to have your keys in any digital form except hardware wallets, because the whole purpose of hardware wallet is not to reveal private key, but to use it when you actually need it. When you need to sign transaction, you have to use your private key. But the only way to make sure that viruses will not steal your key is having it on a separate device, which is like very limited in its functionality and is very protected and was built in this like a security and safety in mind, and it's like much more safer way by design. There are two good measures to protect self-custody assets in crypto. It's actually multi-sig solutions and hardware wallets, and I'm glad that those two ways can be combined with each other freely. So you could organize multi-sig with two or three wallets, and you can use those hardware wallets for them. This would protect you from losing key. Losing one of the keys here is not critical. You still have two other keys to replace the lost address keys. And if someone will steal one of your keys, it's also not enough to steal your money. So you're like protecting from different risks. And yeah, I'm glad that you can combine those two measures together, multi-sig solution and hardware wallet solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're obviously a little bit biased. We do love having hardware wallets in our system. But yes, people do need to keep that in mind, especially when they're just starting out, as we started this conversation. Or, of course, if you're very advanced in the system, you still need a hardware wallet just to make sure that you're holding your funds safe for the long term and you're still able to have all the functionality, because we have swaps available with 1inch in collaboration. So I guess we're building products that actually matter, and that is reassuring and helpful for everybody in the space. How about let's start wrapping up. We've had a wonderful long conversation. I do love chatting forever, but let's wrap it up by just going into how can we learn more about 1inch, connect with your team, and just find out more about your product?
I think you should start from following our Twitter. We usually push updates there. You can also subscribe to our blog posts, but some of them are quite technical, but we also have non-technical ones.
And of course, if you have a Tangem, then you are able to use 1inch today directly from Tangem Express. And that way you can test it out for yourself, see all of that simplicity in one simple format. But other than that, anything else you'd like to leave with our listeners today, or are we good to go?
No, thank you for having me.
Terrific. Well, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Join us next time for the next episode of Tell Us About Yourself here at Tangent Podcasts. And thank you all for joining us. And thank you to our wonderful guest, Anton. Until next time.